oh, what happens if this doesn't work? I like to flip the script and say, hey, what will this look like when it does work? What will this look like when I find the solution?
Today, we are bringing on the author of My Wheel Estate story. He's done so much with a journey marked by failures, faith, and redemption. Garr shares openly about his battles with bankruptcy, alcohol, and fear, and how God transformed his life, family, and business. He is absolutely crushing it as a Christian entrepreneur, speaker, and as I mentioned, top author. Garr, thank you for joining us here on That Entrepreneur Show.
Hey, brother, excited to chat with you. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to learn all about your story and appreciate you being vulnerable and honest with the lessons learned and how you got to this point today, because that is what's going to help everyone today tuning in here on That Entrepreneur Show. My name is Vincent A. Lansing. We've got a great one coming your way. He's overcome a lot and he's accomplished a lot. And everyone, that's what I try to bring you each week is honest, authentic testimonials from proven entrepreneurs to help you on their journey. So thank you for tuning in, keeping the show a top 2.5% global show. If it's your first time with us, welcome as well. This is the #1 podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs to level up. And today we are brought to you by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. Garr, I'm real excited to hear all you have to offer. Please start your entrepreneurial journey from wherever you feel comfortable. Like, what led you to want to be a business owner?
I'm a strong believer that the gifts and callings of God are in you from the day that you're born. And one of the reasons why I believe that is I went to my dad in 5th grade with a business proposal to start a lawn care business. What kind of 5th grader first things to bring a proposal to somebody? The proposal was, I need money so I can hire kids to push lawnmowers. I'm not going to push the mowers. I'm just going to go find the accounts. And so that's where my entrepreneurial adventure started in 5th grade.
Now, as a 5th grader, walk us through what that was like, probably being the only kid with a business plan.
It was a defining moment in my life in a negative way. It wasn't until the last couple of years that it was actually something that turned to be more positive. My dad laughed at me when I gave this proposal and called me lazy. It wasn't until a couple of years ago that I got more revelation on that moment. It wasn't that my dad was saying I was a lazy person. It wasn't that he didn't believe in me. It was that my dad was saying, hey, son, before you go hire a staff, learn the business first so you can train them. I went many years thinking I didn't have what it takes. Like a lot of entrepreneurs, I was grinding, trying to prove myself when I really didn't need it. There was nothing to prove.
And that's a big, big point I'm glad you just make. There is nothing to prove. We're often our own harshest critic. We have the itty bitty committee in our head trying to shift us away from what we know we are capable and should be doing. Did you see a big, big picture being that young when you had this idea? Did you think it was just going to be a neighborhood venture? Walk us through what you saw.
No, I saw that I was going to be a successful business owner in 5th grade is what I saw. My cousin went to his dad and started doing the thing. And he is a very successful lawn care service provider, a real estate investor now. And so it was cool to look back and see my cousin kind of walk that out. And I got nothing but love for him. That's awesome. That's amazing, But yeah, like I say, it's in us. We see the needs, we see the voids, we have the ideas for products and services. And I see that in my kids. I've got an 8, 10, 14, and 16-year-old. For sure, in 2 of my kids, I see that constantly. My 14-year-old, he's got a boat out in our backyard right now that he just bartered a BB gun in $100 with this guy, and he's fixing it up to flip it. But my 8-year-old just turned 9 last week. She makes homemade muffins and sells them in our restaurant. You're an entrepreneur from birth.
I love that, setting an example for future business owners. We need more creatives. Do you have a restaurant?
Yeah, we do. I call it her restaurant. She was a customer service manager at a bank. She worked in her family business growing up. And then, when we got married, started having kids, she became, mom. And we homeschool our 4 kids. And so that has been a big part of her life. Our 16-year-old had a job. She was getting like 4-6 hours a week. Okay, we got to figure out how to give her more hours. And my wife was like, hey, there's this restaurant. Let's buy this restaurant. And I kind of laughed it off at first, thinking, I'm not buying a restaurant. I'm not looking, for another business. But a little over 3 months ago, we bought this cute diner in our town that we all love. And that's where actually my 14-year-old, my wife just finished up homeschooling and is bringing him there right now to work. My 16-year-old's already there working. And that's one of the new family adventures is we bought a restaurant.
I absolutely love that because I know you are a leader in the RV space. Let's talk about.
Yeah, the RV business, that was just like all the other businesses that I've started. They're all pain to purpose stories. One of the first legit businesses after I gave my life to the Lord in 2003 was a credit counseling company. I learned that by fixing up my own credit. I learned how to negotiate with creditors, build positive credit, all those things. And I started helping other people. That founded what was Guaranteed Solutions. That company I sold, it's still up and running today. And then bought my wife an RV for our 10-year wedding anniversary. She's pregnant with number 4, chasing a toddler around a campground. She's miserable. She's like, all right, this is not fun. I'm going home. And I thought, oh my gosh, you're going home. I, set up this beautiful camper at a campground. Another pain to purpose story. So I thought, all right, I'm going to throw this thing on Craigslist and rent it out. Within a couple hours, Vincent, I've got people reaching out to me wanting to rent my RV. I thought, here we go, the next business. And that was just one thing to the next. I reached out to my best friend, Jeremy. I said, hey, dude, I'm renting my camper. Do you want me to rent yours? He's like, yeah, sure, why not? I reached out to my buddy, Darren. He's like, yeah, dude, what? I reached out to my sister-in-law, Tiffany. And she's like, no, that's a horrible idea. Why would I let somebody sleep in the bed of my camper? Like, where do you come up with that crazy idea? I'm like, all right, well, there we go. We're the people who are going to say that's amazing. Yeah, take it. Or people like my sister-in-law, Tiffany, who say, no, you're not sleeping in my camper. That's a horrible idea. And yeah, we were off to the races.
That's incredible. A real serial entrepreneur on the show today. Thank you for bringing this to light. What is one of your biggest lessons learned? Now, I bring that up because you say the pain stories, right? And I totally resonate with a lot of them. But as far as in your business endeavors, whether as a 5th grade kid getting started in the business world or in one of your other ventures, what's a lesson learned that has really stuck with you so we can help our audience out today?
One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that all work works. And I didn't make up this saying. I got to give credit to one of my mentors, Myron Golden. He says it either works on you or it works for you. And that's one of the things in the entrepreneurial world. I talk about this in our franchise opportunity webinar. It's a common statistic with the SBA that 50% of businesses fail, first-time businesses. Well, another statistic from the SBA that isn't as common is 80% of people that fail in those first-time businesses, they don't try again. They're done. They're like, I tried business, I tried entrepreneurship, I failed. I'm obviously not an entrepreneur, and they move on and build someone else's business. Like Myron says, all work works. It's working on you or for you. When you try something and it doesn't produce a result as far as a monetary return or growth in your business, it does produce a return as far as it's growing you as a person. It's growing you as an entrepreneur. You just learned something about sales, marketing, operations, or financials. And now you take that lesson and move forward. You're going from there. One of the biggest things I've learned in the entrepreneurial journey is just because it did produce the result you thought it would, doesn't mean a result wasn't produced.
I love that. And it's a hard lesson to learn and pill to swallow when you're putting so much effort, exhausting so much resources, if not all of your resources, and not seeing the vanity mirror move. And that's, what people can see, the revenue. And eventually it does come by staying the course. There's so much we could touch on today because you're an absolute rock star. But I read something here, COVID coma. I have to dive into it.
Yeah, the COVID coma, that was me getting passive in my businesses during COVID. When the world shut down, I couldn't do all the things I wanted to do. I got passive in my businesses and I started drinking daily. We went up to Michigan to our cottage. We started partying daily. I got passive in my businesses. And it wasn't until 23 that I realized the weight of my decisions of not being actively engaged in my businesses, staying on top of my P&Ls, not meeting with my team and inspiring and encouraging them and continuing to cast the vision. And what happened was a couple interesting things. One was right when everything shut down during COVID, I saw an article on Facebook and it said top things CEOs wish they would have done during the 2008 ordeal. The number one thing they wish they would have done is laid off their staff sooner. So I thought, all right, I'm going to lay off all my corporate team. So I did that right after I got a call from Consumers Energy in Michigan. They needed 74 RVs for mobile quarantine units for their engineers. So I had this massive rental came in and it generated a large amount of revenue. I took that revenue and I went and bought some real estate, which I've always been passionate about real estate. I bought some real estate and I got a phenomenal deal on it. Fast forward a couple of years, I was able to sell that real estate and make a massive return. It wasn't as cool as I thought it was. I was actually selling that real estate at a massive return to keep the rest of my businesses afloat. And I justified it by saying, well, yeah, look at this return. I bought this property for $50 and I'm selling it for $250 a couple years later. Well, if I hadn't sold that real estate, I wouldn't have stayed afloat. It needed to happen. In March 7th, 2023, I decided I was done drinking. I thought, I'm done drinking. I'm not doing it anymore. And I could share about how I did that if you'd like. And then May, I caught COVID. And it was when I caught COVID that I went to mental warfare. I had suicidal thoughts in my mind. It was crazy. I fired my CEO through text. I just about lost my mind. That's when it really shook me and woke me. I call it my COVID comeback. I realized, oh my gosh, I'm going to seek it. I had to get with my accountant, start pouring over my books, figuring things out. And God did what he did. I repented of the decisions that I made. He walked me through reconciling all the decisions. He restored us and catapulted us to where we are today.
Well, thank you for having the courage to share that story and congratulations on how far you've come. I think we're going to have to bring you on my other show. Can add a lot of value there. As an entrepreneur with ups and downs, your mental health is at play. If you're not feeling good up here, you're not thinking clearly, you're not performing well, what are some things you do here, Garr, to take care of your mental health, maybe on a daily or weekly basis to help you stay in the position to run these thriving companies that have 70 locations, right? So if you don't mind helping out our audience this way now.
Yeah, for sure. One of the main things I do is my spiritual walk with the Lord. That's my number one, staying in the scriptures, getting quiet with the Lord, hearing truth from him. I talk about that in my last book, My History. And that's where, bring me back to that 5th grade experience with my dad. Called me lazy. Well, then it was 2 years ago, I realized with the help of the Holy Spirit that he wasn't calling me lazy. He was telling me to learn the business. That revelation set me free. So that's definitely, most important for me spiritually. Things that I do in the natural, man, I'm out moving in the sun, got my cold plunge, sauna, I'm walking, reading. I just finished this book, Mindset, by Carol Dweck, phenomenal. I stay in a growth mindset, engaging my imagination. Instead of, what our mind loves to do is like, oh, what happens if this doesn't work? I like to flip the script and say, hey, what will this look like when it does work? What will this look like when I find the solution? For some reason, when I said that, Gemini popped up on my cell phone. It's like, you need some AI assistance. So I engage my imagination. I ask myself, is this fear, Garr, controlling the conversation in my mind? Or is this faith, Garr? And if it's fear, Garr, I have to quickly flip the script. Let's move into faith and say, what will this look like when it does happen? When I figure out the solution? Because one of the quotes I love, I heard this I love to give credit where the credit's due for quotes. And this quote was by, her name is Eileen Wilder. Eileen Wilder says, all the resources we need already exist. We're just not aware of them yet. So just knowing that the resource is out there, I'm just not aware of it yet. So when I tap into my imagination or do what Tony Robbins says, and I get curious, where is this? If the resource is out there, where could it potentially be? When you tap into the brilliance of our brains, and look for the answers, resources, solutions, and hope, it's amazing what happens.
Talking about resources, being resourceful as an entrepreneur, learning from others. If you could sit down with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who would it be?
It's going to be King Solomon. For those who don't know who King Solomon is, they say, according to calculations, he would still be the wealthiest man alive. God appeared to King Solomon in a dream. He was the son of King David. God said, what do you want? Ask me anything and I'll give it to you. King Solomon said, give me a heart to discern between good and evil that I may lead the people. And God said, because you're asking for this, I'm going to give you everything, all the wealth, all the riches. If you read about King Solomon in 1 Kings and Chronicles, People literally used to come to King Solomon from all around the world yearly, pay him dues, sit at his feet and gain knowledge and wisdom. And back to my, Uncle Myron, I mentioned Myron. Myron says King Solomon was the first person to ever have a continuity program. The kings and queens paid him yearly to sit at his feet and learn. And so I would say that is my greatest mentor. Because man, when I read through the book of Proverbs, there are just so many things in there that you could just pluck out. Like, one proverb says, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, which is so powerful because it's saying whatever you think in your heart, that's what you'll be. If you think you're going to be a success, you will be. If you think you're going to fail, you're going to fail. I could go on with, I love Proverbs.
I don't think we can top that ending. You brought your A game here, Garr. So thank you so much for taking the time to join our community of entrepreneurs. I hope you accept my invitation to come on a mental health break down the road. Where can we find more about all of your companies?
I love to come on that show and talk. I love the ministry of the mind. We've got to learn to minister to our minds, control our minds, and do the same with others. GarrRussell.com, Garr Russell, RUSSELL.com. You can see my books, download for free or buy on Amazon and learn about our businesses, adventures, speaking engagements, etc.
I love it. Everyone, I don't know what you're waiting for. Get out there and check out all he has to offer. He is a rock star in the entrepreneurial space. Please subscribe to stay current with all of our entrepreneurs. Share with a friend if you found this episode helpful. My name is Vincent A. Lancey, and I want to thank everyone once more for tuning in to keep this show a top 2.5% global show. Be sure to connect with Garr. Thanks a million.